right, so we're back, and we are discussing There Will Be Blood. So we're kind of midway through the story. We're talking about the themes that happen throughout the film. One thing I really liked is Daniel's a very quiet man. You don't really get much from him and his feelings through dialogue. I mean, you get a lot through actions. The first time we really get, I think, like a pretty good peek into his true character is the well catches fire. There's this giant eruption that injures HW, and I love because he rushes over, grabs HW, like, oh man, he was so heroic, takes him away, realizes there's something wrong, realizes HW can't hear him.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, I have to go take care of this. It's fine. So then he goes and he's like gazing upon this tragedy and this travesty, basically. Yeah. And his one partner is there with him, and he's like, I don't know. He says something along the lines of like, why do you look so? He's like, something about like, don't look so sad. There's an entire sea of oil underneath us. Yeah. And then his partner says, is HW okay? And Daniel Plainview's just like, no, he isn't. And then he just keeps fixating on his. I wrote down he gazes upon his kingdom.
Right.
It was like very like Nero watching Rome burn kind of moment, you know. Yeah.
But the thing is, it was so analogous to that because at this point we were pretty much convinced that Daniel was willing to set just about anything of value aside so that he could have the success that would come with drilling for oil in this town. Yeah.
Well, and then he literally does that with the HW. He casts him aside to focus on this thing, you know?
Yeah.
And then you really don't get another look into Daniel for some time until his brother shows up and they kind of have this heart-to-heart where he says, I see the worst in people. I've built up my hatreds over the years, little by little. And you're like, I remember watching and being like, this guy is just the worst. He is a devil. He is the devil character in this. There's nothing likable about him. Our protagonist has become our antagonist, and there's still an hour left in the movie.
we don't get a hero.
No. There's I guess by the end, HW. Yeah. Who kind of sees Daniel for what he is and kind of leaves him from that.
Yeah.
Man, really interesting. I like that scene a lot.
And that's the craziest part, that he even has the audacity to completely tear down his fake son, who he's essentially used this entire time. Like, he takes pride in calling him an orphan when he essentially stripped him of that identity himself so that he could use him for his own gains.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then faults him for taking initiative and
essentially showing him the same attitude that he would have shown him.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's so sad. It's such a sad existence. Like, I feel so bad for HW. He's such a pawn in this whole thing, and has the first chance that he gets to make a decision for himself ostracizes him from his father. And I was like, why is there this deep hatred for it?
Yeah.
And then I put it together. HW marries Mary and makes Daniel and Eli brothers by marriage.
Right. Yeah.
So now, like, this man that Daniel hates is now related by blood almost.
Right.
You know? And I feel like that was kind of, it's something we see off screen, but I mean, we see them get married, but it's there. And I would imagine that would be the start of their issues between the two of them. And then, the one thing that Daniel takes the utmost pride in his life is the business and oil. And then HW goes into business against him,
Right.
It's just, yeah.
Yeah. It's super heavy.
Yeah.
And it gets super complicated, and almost all of it is communicated implicitly. One thing that I didn't want to like look it up. I don't know. I wanted it to just land with me, and I don't think I got a full picture of it, but I didn't understand where Daniel's brother, well, his fake brother, when did Daniel realize that his brother wasn't actually his brother? Like, so there was the questionnaire in the middle of the night, but what prompted that? Was it the fact that his brother was constantly asking for money, or?
No, you know, so the two of them,
I must have missed it.
Yeah, it's super, super subtle. The two of them make that deal with the pipeline company, and they go to the beach and they're swimming and they're drying off on the sand. And Daniel's telling a story about this dance and stuff, and he's describing, I forget if it's that part. He's describing something to his brother, and his brother, you know, doesn't say a word about it, just ignores what he's saying, because, you know, Daniel's trying to have a moment where he's like, oh, remember this. And, you know, a brother would be like, oh my God, I do remember that, you know, and have something for that. And for me, I think that's where he realizes that's not his brother, because I guess we're someone to like look upon this house or this, I think I'm pretty sure it's the house he's talking about. He wanted to like live in that house.
Okay.
And then his brother says, well, you can have any house you want now. And he says a memory, you know, it's bothering me. I have to look it up now.
Oh, there's something sentimental about that house, I guess.
Yeah. And I almost wonder if that's the house that he winds up living in at the end. Let's see. There's a bio Daniel. Let's strike a deal with Union Oil, the pipeline. Daniel becomes suspicious of Henry, and one night holds him at gunpoint. Oh, that's it. So I guess that suspicion. Oh, while reminiscing about their childhood, Daniel becomes suspicious of Henry, and one night holds him at gunpoint. And I guess that's the start of it. It's really just that, and then just his
and
paranoia
man, he
comes
folds
off of it.
quickly.
Oh yeah,
dude,
yeah.
that. Let me tell you, like, there was something about the way that that scene could have played out in so many different ways.
Yeah,
and that murder was so subtle, but so personal. It gave me chills.
Yeah.
The way that he just killed him. Like, it was so swift. Yeah.
It happened, and I said to my wife, I was like, that's probably the most visceral death that I've seen on film. There's nothing, I mean, he shoots him in the head, but there's nothing gory about it. There's not like a blood splatter.
Right.
But I think just watching him suffer was just
his life
so.
Just ends, and,
it's just you just watch it fade from him, and it would just. You're right, personal. It's just like, oh, this. I know he's not your brother. He's just a guy. I think ultimately it plays to Daniel's character. He just hates being swindled.
Right.
You know,
which is ironic, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, right. Exactly. Like Eli tried to swindle him and tried to negotiate for lesser money and tries to pull all this stuff, and he just hates that. He can't stand that. Yeah. It's just so.
It's just such a jaded like system. And one thing they do a really good job of is like showing the system around him that kind of explains why he behaves the way that he behaves. Like, if you pay close attention, the only time people come to him is because they want something from him.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And there is sort of like this small, at least for me, I saw this small implicit sympathy for, well, you know, sympathy for the devil, right? Like, there's a little bit of sympathy for the devil in that, just because it's such a cutthroat industry that he's in. And you even see him drive himself delirious over it. Like the little tirade that he had in the restaurant.
Yeah.
Against some of the other businessmen, like that. I mean, that was definitely one of the more minor parts of the movie, but it said so much about just where he sort of like arrived and like checked out mentally with the work that he does. You know? Because other than that, I mean, that's sort of like, and really it's great because that's the venue for us to really get a sense of the way that he's honestly thinking, because everyone else around him in the movie isn't savvy to the things that he's savvy to, right? Like they're all sort of outside of his field. You know what I mean? Like they're like, you know, simple residents or, you know, ministry clergy, right? So it is really interesting to see him amongst his peers still completely losing it. And and essentially giving up on him in Act 3. You know what I mean? Like giving up on him ever coming around or changing or wanting to get better. There was a little bit of hope when he took his son back in. But even then, he could never see his son in the same way, and he was never fully interested in, I guess, restoring the respect that he had for him as a business partner, even if he was a second-class business partner, because of, you know, his inability to hear. And you know, he's saying small things like, well, maybe he'll just get his sound back. You know what I mean? I found it to be really interesting. Actually, it was phrases like that and the use of silence, and there were so many different things that, is this what you would call a period piece? What is a period piece? Is this it?
I think so. I think it's really just anything that takes place historically, I guess.
Okay.
I always think of period pieces as like Jane Austen novels, I think. I don't know. I don't know if that's true.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not really sure.
Okay. I'm not sure if I fully track, but I know that the entire ethos of this, you know, from character to the use of silence, it definitely confirmed it helped sell me on the idea that this was from another time, like that this was from a time long ago. Like the 1900s specifically, like a time when it's not all about speeds and feeds. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I found that to be very, very interesting.
Yeah, it was definitely eye-opening in the sense of the way people lived back then, I think, you know, and just observing them and watching them in this film. You know, it was very like that Standard Oil guy that he meets in the restaurant, or when they're trying to set up that deal that doesn't wind up happening. He's like, oh, well, I could make you a millionaire right now and you could just retire with your son. And then that kind of sets Daniel off.
Right.
And then he has that confrontation with him later. I felt like that scene when he brings HW back was, Daniel had this sense of family, like a real family, and I feel like that's why Daniel kind of chooses his brother over HW to kind of make his business partner at that point.
Right.
But then when he realizes that he's not his brother, it's almost like a reaffirmation of family values. If Daniel Plainview has family values, you know, I guess his only idea of someone who is his family would be HW that he tries to bring back, and like it just shows him off in this really unsettling way to this businessman. It's just this spiral that he's in, and I almost wonder if while HW
doesn't he
is
kind of
watching
brag about having his son back?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he's
so weird.
Like, that's my son. Don't tell me how to raise him, kind of thing.
Yeah. He like brought back this old conversation.
Yeah, it's so messed up, and I feel like that's kind of the scene where HW like is like, what? Who is this man? And like, why am I here? You know?
Yeah.
There was actually so right after that scene, when HW decides to leave, there's this flashback, and it's HW and Daniel, and they're kind of like roughhousing, and like Mary's there, and he like takes his hat and he starts walking toward the oil rig, and HW like kicks sand toward him and then walks off screen as like Daniel continues on, and it's such a like a understated scene. It just seems like something that plays almost like B-roll over the movie, but I just found that scene so telling. You know, here's HW trying to have a relationship, and then Daniel just having nothing to do with him and just going toward the goal, and then HW going off with Mary to do his own thing.
Yeah.
Like it's such a simple flashback thing, but just says like so much. It just spoke like volumes to me at that point.
There was another scene that did the same thing that you're describing for me, only it was with the relationship between HW and Daniel, where they're kind of discussing they're kind of discussing how they're going to go about paying the Sunday family.
Yep.
And you know, HW kind of suggests, so are we going to pay him the oil prices? And then he's like, well, we're not going to pay him the oil prices, but we're going to pay them the quail prices, right?
Yeah.
And which essentially means we're going to gyp him. And
we're going to totally rip these people off. Yeah.
And he just the camera just sort of pans towards him, and he just sort of looks at him, and like you could see it kind of register for him that like they're going to do something unethical, you know?
Yeah.
And I thought that was really powerful. And I think it makes his leaving years later, like after he's married, when he has that conversation with his father, well, not his father, but you know what I mean? Like, his caretaker, it makes it so much more vindicating, because from my perspective, with the information that's given to me, I arrive at the conclusion that he's never been 100% with a lot of the decisions that that Daniel has made, you know what I mean? And and even, you know, Daniel's colleagues sort of, taking him by the shoulder and saying, you know, make sure that you're getting 50%, you know what I mean? Like, you know, be careful, like just dropping all these like little hints and stuff like that. Like, I think all of those things matter. I think I don't think that those lines were in there by accident or just to fill up time. You know what I mean? Actually,
they're definitely in there for that kind of thing. Actually, one of our listeners, the Cinema Log, who PS does a great job of running our subreddit.
Seriously, dude, thank you.
I'm assuming it's
much.
a he.
Oh my god,
he's a great guy, super good guy. So he wanted to chime in on how interesting this period of Paul Thomas Anderson's career was, meaning There Will Be Blood and The Master. He felt that they were Paul Thomas Anderson emulating Kubrick and going all out experimental devices and visual storytelling. Each of these films often had small gestures spread throughout and always concluded them in a smaller way that spoke on larger themes. I think that's a great...
Oh my gosh, there it is.
Yeah, it's perfect. It really is these small little pieces, these small little nuggets that build up to this, you know, this great... You know, climax in this movie. The Master kind of had something like that. It didn't have as raucous as, you know, this one did, but that kind of feeling that these little things that you pick out of the movie afterwards, that you're kind of like, oh wow, there's a lot of great big things going on in this movie that were achieved not through someone talking right to the camera or to another character saying, this is how you should feel. Yeah. This is the more, like you said the other day, this is the moral of the story. It's these little pieces that you observe and you pick out, and you're like, that's the theme of the movie, and that's what I should be taking away, not the overall plot. It's these little moments that are building towards something great. I think it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Super good, man. So then to wrap the movie up,
right. You want to unpack the end scene, because there's a lot in there.
there's a lot. So Daniel's an older man. He's living luxuriously, so much so that he can shoot his belongings and not really care about them. His son comes back, or HW comes back, and basically tells him that he's going off on his own. He's leaving, and Daniel drops the bomb on him. You know, he just says, "I found you. You were nothing. You were just a
bastard
baby
in a basket."
A bastard in a basket. That's what he keeps repeating, man. Fucking man, it's like so heartbreaking.
Go to hell, man.
You know, it's like I'm watching this movie and I'm seeing, you know, I'm probably for the next couple of years when we're watching movies, I'm going to pick up on like these father themes a lot just because.
Sure.
I mean, you know, my dad's awesome. We have a great relationship, and I want to make sure that my son and I have a great relationship too. So
of course.
I'm seeing this unfold, and I'm like, how could you say that? You know, and I think even when I saw it, you know, before I was a dad and just watching it as a film grower, I was just like, what a terrible person. How can you say that to another human being? You know, and then years later, I'm like, how can you say that to your son, man? That's terrible.
Sure.
So, HW leaves.
It's like, I remember it was a while ago. It must have been 4 years ago. One of my closer friends, we would hang out almost all the time, like when I moved back up to the New York area. Just because, you know, he was going through a lot, and like it just, and for me, I guess I was too, and like we would just always chill. And like for him, there was a stretch of time where like he was dealing with a lot, and like his parents had essentially like kicked him out. And so, you know, he would stay at my place once in a while, and like he would just sort of like hop around and move around. And I remember there was one night I was just chilling, and I was just talking with my mother about it, and I told her that, and she just had this weird like real moment where that and I could like see it on her face, like, because I'd never seen her like that before. It was just very honest, and she was just like, you carry that in your stomach for like 9 months, and then you just say go. Like, I don't get that.
Yeah.
Like she was just like that doesn't compute for me. Like, I don't understand how someone can do that. And I was just like, yeah, I guess so. I mean, I guess I never really thought about it that way, but for sure. Like,
yeah, man, you I feel like you get these moments throughout your life where you get reminded that evil is out there. You know, not to say that your friends.
Oh no, of course not. Yeah,
but that sometimes people just do terrible things, and when you live your life and you're trying to make the most of your life, and you're trying to be positive, and you hear these things, you're right, it just does not compute. It's like, why? Like, why would you do that? Don't do that.
Yeah.
You know? Man, and this movie gives you a lot of that. It gives you so much of that. So Eli comes back and basically asks Daniel for money and offers to sell him this tract of land that he has wanted over the time. And Daniel tells him that it's all gone, that there's nothing there. And he tells him that after he makes Eli swear off his religion, and that he's a false prophet, and basically gives him what he got so many years ago in the church. It's Daniel just breaking down Eli.
It's two kids.
It's just so nuts. Both of those scenes, both of those baptized scenes. Well, the baptized scene in the church.
There's like a trade of confessions, essentially, right?
Yeah.
Because like Daniel has to confess abandoning his son, and then Eli later on has to confess that he's a fake.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Something I found interesting is that once Daniel confesses that he abandoned HW, he doesn't wallow in that moment for more than a split second, because he immediately switches back to, I just want to get this done. He's like, I want the blood. And he just switches back into just I need to get through this so I can do this, so I can go back to business.
Yeah.
Where Eli doesn't get that. Eli just gets broke. Oh my dude, it's so good, man. This movie's so good. I just love doing that voice. I was doing this to Rebecca like the whole night. Yeah, like Eli doesn't get that. Eli gets broken and stays broken. You know?
Yeah.
He doesn't get to have that.
And part of it is just like his inability to see his own brokenness. That's his biggest issue. because he's constantly in a I mean it's sort of part of his show, right? Like the thing is, like, the false god that Daniel worships allows him to at least admit to his brokenness, and in some ways that can be helpful, because when he did confess that he abandoned his son, like, he felt the weight of it, right? And then but then the false god that Eli worships requires that he remain legalistic about the way that he carries himself. So he never really gets to have, like, this moment of self-realization. He just sort of dies in this cowardly, false, stubborn way, you know?
Yeah.
And it's really unfortunate. I mean, it's sort of like the you ever heard of the what is it? Is it the parable of the prodigal son, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, so the way everyone talks about the prodigal son story is essentially like, there was the son who was the son of the father, and like he decided to break off and go into the city and do whatever he wanted to and sleep with whoever he wanted to. And, you know, at the time he had demanded that his father give him his inheritance for the land that he owned, which at the time in Eastern culture was the equivalent of saying that you wish that your father were dead, because you only got your inheritance when your father died. So to ask for it early is to say that you wish that they were dead by taking that thing that they own. And, you know, he went out, did what he wanted, spent all of his money, ended up in a gutter, like, was at the end of himself, had nothing left, and essentially had to crawl back to his dad and ask for forgiveness. And he was like, you know, I mean, maybe if I could even be treated with an ounce, like a fraction of the respect that your, like, mules are treated, like, that would be enough. You know what I mean? And like, when a lot of people tell the story, they seem to focus on, like, the younger brother, but actually what's really interesting are all the things said about the older brother and the way that the older brother carries himself. So the older brother stays at home, constantly obeys his father, and follows all of the rules precisely. You know what I mean? And he even takes pride in the fact that, like, he takes pride and he recognizes that he is the one who is capable of following all of the rules the entire time. And when the son comes back, the father runs toward him and, like, embraces him, which at the time culturally it was unheard of that a father would run towards a son. You know what I mean? And and he takes him back in and he accepts him, and he's like, slaughter the fattest calf we have, and we're going to celebrate him coming back. And at the end of the story, in some ways it's great for the son, because it's this amazing story of, like, this person who like went off on their old way, made a mistake, and was, like, forgiven and brought back into the fold. But it actually ends quite dark and morbidly for the older brother, because the older brother is so hopped up on the good things that he's done that he's unable to celebrate. And the story actually ends with him just not celebrating and not being a part of the festivities at all, and being completely taken up with his self-righteousness. And I almost wonder, in the same way, if Eli kind of suffers from that same thing, where in a lot of ways he's kind of worse off for never really recognizing his brokenness, which in some ways can be the first step to, like, growing and becoming a better man. What was crazy though was the way that the ending went down, and just seeing the weight of that sort of rivalry and competition between Eli and Daniel. I almost wasn't expecting one to kill the other. Like, it almost seemed playful, and then you realize, no, wait, like, this is real.
It's super escalated.
Yeah.
And, you know, it leaves you sitting there like, why did he do that? What happened? Like, what? And I was thinking about it, I was like, oh, well, Eli says that they're brothers now, and maybe Daniel just kind of snaps into it because he had someone who said was his brother before and killed him for, I don't know, man. I sat there afterwards and I was trying to like dissect it. Like why that choice to have Daniel kill Eli, you know?
Like director's choice?
Yeah, like a director choice. Like, well, like why? The ending just sits with you, and you're right. That music is super off-putting.
Yeah.
To witness that, and then
As
to
blood's like
celebrate,
leaking out of his
yeah.
head. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I was just really trying to figure it out. And the only thing I came up with was that the brother thing that, and that's the only thing I kind of like hung up on. And like Daniel saying, I'm finished. And it's weird. I remember.
You have any thoughts on what that meant?
I don't know. I initially was just like I finished is like my work is done. I don't know. Like it was killing Eli and breaking down Eli like his whole purpose. Do you know? I don't know. What about you? What were your thoughts on it?
I think for myself, very early on, I got the impression that Daniel sort of wanted Eli out of the picture.
Yeah,
and he was. I mean, from denying him, essentially letting him kind of bless the. Remember how Eli was asking, that he be introduced so that he could bless the initial drilling for oil, and then essentially like Daniel kind of took it away
of these hills.
Yeah.
And he does it to Mary instead.
Yeah. And I think in the beginning, that's when I realized that this was sort of like a power struggle, and this was a battle between like both of their gods, because I think a man who was just focused on just, making his money and pleasing the people would have just introduced him and let him, give the blessing and just gone on with their work and
just not ignored it.
But instead he had this
an axe to grind with it.
Instead he really needed to like make a statement in not announcing him and sort of giving his own sort of just secular blessing, I guess. And there was something really interesting about that. So, when he killed him, in the end, it made it for me. It almost made it seem like this is something that, like, this is his resolve. Like, this is what he's been looking forward to doing. Like, this is where he sort of. This is what he's been fantasizing about deriving his peace from. Like, just ending the sky. And I think maybe that answer is a little bit too simple, considering there's so much nuance. And one thing that this film is good for is not wasting dialogue at all. Like we talked about it earlier, and I think the one thing I wanted to say earlier that I guess I just sort of lost was that there's really no room. Like, all the dialogue has to matter because they're so intentional about making it incredibly scarce.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like when anyone says anything, it has to mean something because it's so rare that someone's so. And in that regard, I wonder if I am missing something. But in some ways, I don't feel like I am, because it's not like there's a whole bunch of ground for me to miss. It just seems like Daniel really wanted to off this guy.
Yeah, and maybe it's just as simple as that. That it's just he was done, and that's it. Yeah. And maybe there's nothing more to it than just that.
Yeah.
Man, super good.
No.
I had one more thing that I wrote down this note. Every time Daniel's asleep, everyone has a hard time waking him up, and I initially I was just like, oh well, I guess he's drunk or
really
whatever. I just started to wonder about like that choice and why he's so hard to wake up about all this out of this deep sleep. Like almost like he's
really,
they have to like raise him from the dead every time. Like I started to think about like, is he just so dead inside that he just is like literally dead and has to be like.
I never noticed that, frankly.
Yeah, like everyone is like, there's got to be something with it. It's like in the town, he's when they first hear that one of the guys had died, his partner has a really hard time waking him up, and he's like passed out on the straight down on the floor. And I guess it's just like drinking, and I guess that's really, that could just be all it is. But I sat there thinking about like trying to figure out what is the deeper meaning, if there was a deeper meaning to that. And it, like the I'm finished thing, it might just be, well, he's just a drunkard, you know?
Yeah.
But I feel like there's got to be something more, but I just can't figure out what it is. And it might just be something that's just like a character thing that like Paul Thomas Anderson was like, wrote down in a character note, which is like, he is very difficult to wake up from sleep.
It could be. Frankly, I never noticed that detail, but that is interesting.
Yeah. So what'd you think, man?
Overall, I thought, was there a specific question for this?
No, I think
okay, just thoughts.
We talked about it just being like a
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, we wrote about I wrote down when we initially come in with the podcast idea, I wrote down like a list of movies and kind of like a theme for each one and what it could be. For this one, I remember writing just the Paul Thomas Anderson masterclass. You know, this, if you were to kind of pick apart a movie based on a super auteur, that, you know, this could be Paul Thomas Anderson's masterpiece.
Okay.
At this point. Yeah, okay. I mean, a lot of people go Boogie Nights with Paul Thomas Anderson. I love every one of his films. They're all super interesting to me. Yeah. The Master might be an interesting one to talk about at some point.
Oh, my goodness. Is that the same person?
Yeah.
Get out of here. I love The Master.
Yeah, it might be interesting, especially with that Scientology documentary. That might be an interesting one to tackle at some point.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. We have to dive into that at some point.
Okay. All right. We'll do that at some point.
Overall, I thought, it's going to be generic. I thought this movie was fantastic. I had a really good time. Like, all of the subjectivity. Like, it was, no, but seriously, it was phenomenal in that it merited a phenomenon. No, but for real, it was exciting. It was a rich use of dialogue. It was a rich use of nuance. It was great
amazing
cinematography.
I was just going to say the cinematography, out of control.
It was.
I mean, just that oil fire scene alone.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Beautiful images. That
was amazing. The score was emotive. Like the dialogue was intense.
Yeah.
Like intense and believable. And, you know, the performance of all the actors was so strong.
Yeah.
So I have nothing against where this film went.
Yeah, I don't think I have a negative thing to say about the movie. I do have like a criticism,
Sure.
I guess, on the zeitgeist. I guess everyone seems to fixate on the milkshake line as if that was like his catchphrase or something. But I mean, it comes once, and
people were mentioning that. What is it? Wait, what is it? What's
so
the deal with the milkshake?
He's explaining to Eli the way oil drilling works, and that he didn't need to buy the tract of land that Eli was offering because he had already had
with the straw,
the wells around it with the straw. Yeah, exactly. It's just interesting that that's the thing that I guess it's because it's so explosive. You know, you don't really see Daniel get that worked up until the end, and I guess that would be memorable. Yeah,
that was pretty memorable. Wait, so the people didn't like that, or they did?
No, they did.
Okay,
that became like that became like the thing for the movie. Like there was an SNL sketch where it was a new Food Network show.
Get out of here!
Called "I Drink Your Milkshake," and it's Bill Hader playing Daniel Plainview and who is it? Amy Poehler plays HW.
That's great. Oh my god.
Yeah. You have to look it up. It's pretty good. And Bill Hader does a really good Daniel Plainview.
That's great.
Yeah, man, this movie, it's every time I watch it, it's like, man, this is like one of my favorite movies. It's just so it's like you were saying before, man. The silence is just spectacular.
Yeah.
It's so poignant. In
It gives a sense
most
of time.
movies,
Like this guy, he's a traveling salesman. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And you just get such a great sense of the tedium in adventuring. Like his adventure is exciting, but not the whole way. And it was
right.
The silence was such a good way of conveying all of those in between moments. That you're reminded, hey, yeah, this is 1900. Like there aren't flying cars. Like they're handling business in a small town. You know what I mean? But it's not boring.
Right. No. And you know what too, in a time where so many movies are chock full of dialogue and silence may come along and really kind of punctuate a scene, this movie is the complete inverse of that. So much silence where the dialogue kind of punctuates each scene and kind of just bumps it, man. Like it's like, oh, great. Oh, I'm interested to see where this goes, and then bam, this killer dialogue happens, and you're along for the ride. Super good, man.
So good.
Love this movie.
So that's awesome. Why don't we read some 5-star iTunes reviews of the show? All right. So our first 5-star review is from Slim Grim. A thoughtful look at films. Oh, I know this one's going to be heartwarming. Oh, look, it's 3 lines too. Okay. Satchell and Nick have thoughtful and insightful conversations on films. It's a refreshing contrast to a hugely popular trend of taking apart films we hate, and instead discussing films that we love. What makes this even better is that they discuss films they know are good, but are hard to recommend in casual conversation, such as 12 Angry Men, which I'm sitting down to watch now thanks to the podcast. Everyone has those kinds of films, and I'm glad someone is sharing them. Thanks, Satch and Nick. Thank you, Slim Grim. That's really cool. That it's sort of like, really nice. I wasn't expecting. I don't think either of us were expecting that it would sort of reverse engineer, where people would just listen to a podcast blind and then be inspired to go and watch the film.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah. I think early on we worried about kind of spoiling them, and then we're kind of like, we can't talk about the movie without spoiling it, so let's just go full on and hope that people have seen the movie.
And like try to announce as much as we can.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's nice to hear the inverse of that, where people are like, oh wow, they really like this movie because of X, Y, and Z reasons, so I think I will too, and then really have an appreciation for the movie as opposed to just absorbing it for the first time. That's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really sweet.
Yeah, you're right, man. Totally took me by surprise.
And by the way, if you guys are following along with the podcast and you do not know, we are always announcing what we're going to be covering next so that you can watch in advance. You can follow either CA Telecast for Cinephila Anonymous or Hey Nick Murphy for Nick Murphy. He talks about it, and then I do too as well. Satchbags Goods on the Twitters. Next is, I did that Chris Jericho style. I don't know if you listen to Talk is Jericho. Is this wrestling podcast? Sorry. All right, I'll stop.
Oh, that's awesome.
Anyway.
Are you into wrestling?
Dude, I've been watching NXT. Oh my gosh, man. Wait, were you into it when you were younger?
I was very into it.
Dude, okay, so the WWE, they have this new I don't know what you'd call it, like I guess series called NXT, and it's essentially like indie wrestling, but it's so good because there's just so much more freedom. Okay. And there's a lot to respect about it. The characters are really likable, and the writing is really good, and like I really respect the female on female combat because it's not just TNA stuff. Like it's not It's not all sexual euphemism. Like it's actual combat. Like they actually care about that, which I think is super important. And
yeah, that's cool.
And it's been really good. I've been getting sucked into it pretty quickly.
Oh, nice, man. I'll check it out.
Strong recommendation on that. Next review is, it's called More Than a Book Club. That's a cool title, a very encouraging title.
Nice.
Not only has this podcast opened me up to some movies I'd never seen before, it also promotes thoughtful discussion and analysis of movies I have already seen in the past. Definitely a podcast I will share with my friends, as well as continue listening to on my own.
Oh, that's very nice.
Sweet. And I had to include this third one.
Sure.
Would rate in Off the Chains because this podcast is at minimum 10 chains off the chain.
Oh my God! Really?
And that is by Star-Lord 6969. Oh yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah. And
the
last one's by Shifarobe Buster. So thanks so much, Slim Grim, Shifarobe Buster, and Star-Lord 6969.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Super good. Yeah, we really appreciate those 5-star reviews. It gives us good feedback as to how we're doing and stuff. Please go on iTunes if you think we're doing great. Please tell us if you think we're not doing great. We are always looking for ways to improve the podcast and the experience that we have with you guys. So anything you can tell us would be great. I know in the first couple podcasts I said like a lot. I am conscious of it, and I am trying to be better.
Me too. Yeah.
I've
just been making bigger pauses because I'm like, don't say like.
I know.
Just think about what comes after like.
Someone listened to the podcast. There's so much dead air in that podcast. It's like the There Will Be Blood of podcasts. Oh my God.
Great.
That's so good. But yeah, any review on iTunes, it helps us for feedback. It helps our presence in the iTunes store. It gets more people to listen to the podcast. So we super appreciate it. We appreciate every one of you guys who are listening. It's really, really awesome.
Faux show.
What are we doing next, Satchel?
Okay. Okay, I had this thought.
Yeah, hit me with it, dude. Hit me with it.
I feel like our roster so far has been super duper diverse. And
yeah.
I want to suggest something that's a little bit. I want to suggest something animated.
Cool, dude. That's awesome.
I feel like it's something that a good chunk of our audience right now is familiar with. And I think that there are some interesting things that could be discussed in it. And it is Cowboy Bebop knocking on heaven's door. How do you feel about that?
Interesting. I would be interested in it. I've heard nothing but good things about Cowboy Bebop. Full disclosure, I'm not super into anime, but what I've seen of Cowboy Bebop I have enjoyed. And when I was younger, I did enjoy things like Ninja Scroll and Vampire Hunter D and Dragon Ball. Not to say that those are the... Oh, and Akira. Akira's amazing. Cool. So I would be open to the idea, and I am interested to analyze it.
All right, sweet. This is actually what's interesting about this. Now, I really like this movie. I don't know if it's nostalgia goggles or not, but I guess we'll find out. The Cowboy Bebop was always sort of like an outlier in a kind of way because it was never really like... Most anime is usually like it's supernatural or it has something to do with some kind of like martial art or something like that.
Right.
Bebop is very much not like that. It's always sort of been like this hybrid detective gumshoe, like futuristic,
very
bounty
stylistic.
Hunter. Yeah,
I remember seeing
super,
a lot of style,
super stylized, and definitely more drama suspense like than I Must Train to Be the Very Best, like no one ever was. So like that always had an intriguing draw for me. I would consider it like, for example, all anime start off as manga first, right? And like I would categorize it with old boy manga more than anything else. And Old Boy didn't even make its way to an anime; it just made itself to a live action film. So essentially, this would have made a really interesting live action film. And I'm interested in sort of crossing those lines in a kind of way and seeing. So, yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, all right,
I'm
cool.
down.
That is a thing.
Yeah, totally. So we talked about doing Interstellar. Do you want to do Interstellar first, or you want to do?
Oh, that's
Cowboy
right,
Bebop, and then.
Oh no! I messed it up. That's right.
No. It's all good. No. Hey man, we're doing it. We're doing all of it now.
Yes, we're doing Interstellar first.
Okay, we'll do Interstellar first.
I didn't realize you were
then
setting
Cowboy
me up.
Bebop.
Yes, I was saying that all with the premise that Interstellar was happening first. Yes. Okay.
No, I love it. I love it. It's
we're doing Interstellar first.
Well, people are getting a look, man. Like, this is how we come up with this stuff. They're getting an idea of how we work.
Okay,
man.
So Interstellar is coming first, and that is going to be. Shoot, are they going to find out? Yes, they're going to find out because this is releasing Thursday, which is today for you guys.
Yeah. So we'll put something up.
Yeah. So we're going to be advertising like Shameless Whores the whole week, and essentially, we are going to do our the next movie is Interstellar, and we are going to watch that and record our episode live the same day. So we're going to stream it on Twitch. Twitch there's just so much control over that. We have a lot more control, and I'm sure
we'll watch the movie and then stream our podcast discussion.
Yes.
Right.
And
I don't think we can watch the movie. We can't watch and stream it, right? That's
no, that would be illegal.
That's illegal. So yeah, that's what I figured.
So
okay.
we're probably we're gonna watch it first, and then after that we're gonna collect our thoughts, and then we're just gonna like talk about it. And you guys, please feel free. So if you haven't seen it, go see it. Don't be a dummy. Go to Best Buy and get the Blu-ray because it comes with a free IMAX filter. Dude, I got mine. Mine is cool.
What did you get?
I got the astronaut.
What scene did you get? Oh, dude, that's cool,
it's
man.
So cool. But yeah. So go out.
I thought about buying another copy.
Dude, I did too. I want more film sales. Dude,
you know what, too? Target has like a steelbook.
Dude,
that's a great idea.
Best Buy has it for like not $1 million for Blu-ray.
Yeah.
You know? Anyway,
I wonder if you could just do that and then just. Oh, that's kind of.
To return it.
I was gonna be like,
wrong.
Oh no, I was gonna. No, you can't. We can't return media like that. But like, I was like, oh, you could buy it and then just sell it on Amazon. But then like, someone buying it is not going to get. I guess if they're buying it used, they're understanding that it's not going to come with everything.
You could
but
let them know that you could just tell them it's a regular edition.
Yeah, you know what? That's not a bad idea. Because Target has so in the Blu-ray collecting world, there's like these other editions. It's such a marketing thing, but it's cool. So they're called steel books, and they're basically like these metal steel kind of like containers for them, and they're cool because they always have like alternate artwork on them. This company Mondo has been doing some awesome artwork for them, so they're really cool. And I've been seeing on the subreddit that I'm part of that people are like displaying them, like hanging them, because they're made of steel or some kind of metal material. They're susceptible to magnets, so people are like mounting magnets on their wall and hanging them up like that. I was like, oh, that's cool. So now I'm like looking into them, and Target has an Interstellar steel book, so
that's pretty awesome.
I don't know, if I got an extra $25, I might just try grab it. Next time I'm at Target, I think I might just get it.
Dude, I hear you. I know the feels.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna stream that, and I guess we should. We'll just follow us on Twitter, and you'll get details and stuff like that. We're gonna work we're gonna work that stuff out.
Yeah, and same thing. We'll still, even though
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, even though we're going to stream it, we'll still put it on YouTube and iTunes and all that stuff.
Yes, it's still going to be a legit episode, but this time there's going to be, community interaction. So you guys can feel free to like share some of your ideas on the subreddit. It's just reddit.com/r/Cinephilia Anonymous, or you can tweet with the hashtag. What should it be? What do you think it should be?
Let's do. Just do hashtag CA Telecast.
Yeah, hashtag CA Telecast. That's totally fine. Yeah, anything.
Yeah, just tweet it. Just tweet at us.
Yeah, or tweet it at us. Yeah, if you don't, whatever
it's
you need.
probably easier.
We're gonna look at all the things. We got tweet
exactly.
We're in the future. We got the technology. We'll figure it out. Yeah, and then oh my gosh, it's dragging. And then
no, it's fine, dude. Then, I think people like this
totally
this
cool
banter,
it, right? Yeah,
yeah.
And
totally.
What's left? Yeah, or you could just wait until we actually stream and make a Twitch account and we can talk on there and it'll be fun.
We would love to talk with you guys about it in real time. It'll be fun.
So that'll be totally fun and that'll be really cool, and hopefully we get to know more of you guys who are super into the podcast, and we can kind of hear where you kind of stand with these movies, and you can feel free to ask just about any question under the sun.
Yeah.
So.
Dope. Yeah, and I'm sure once we do the podcast part of it, maybe we'll hang for a bit and we'll figure it out.
We'll chill. We'll kick it.
It'll be super chill.
Yeah. So, guys, thanks so much for listening and tracking with us. We're looking forward to covering Interstellar. Stay tuned. Go out and watch it. And as always, Nick.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I forgot the end part that I do. Thank you so much for coming on this interstellar adventure, which we're going to watch Interstellar next.
Boom.
And we're going to go super into the darkest corners of your mind and unlock your hidden passion
for cinema.
Thanks, guys.
Peace.